On June 19, 1865, over 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, with a message that would change history. All slaves are free. That day, known now as Juneteenth, marked the final enforcement of emancipation in the last Confederate state. But Juneteenth is more than a historical milestone. It is a living, breathing celebration of African American freedom, resilience, and culture. As we observe Juneteenth 2025, now a federal holiday recognized across the United States, we do more than remember. We reaffirm our collective commitment to justice, equality, and truth. This video explores Juneteenth's historical roots, its evolution, and its enduring relevance in today's America. The Emancipation Proclamation, signed on January 1, 1863, was revolutionary, but its actual impact varied by geography. It freed enslaved people only in Confederate states and could not be enforced until Union troops advanced. In states like Texas, far from the Union's stronghold, slavery continued largely unchallenged. In fact, some slave owners moved to Texas precisely to avoid Union oversight. When General Granger arrived in Galveston in June 1865 and issued General Order No. 3, it wasn't just a legal announcement. It was the culmination of centuries of struggle. The order stated, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free." The joy, confusion, and hesitation that followed were deeply human responses to a seismic shift. Freedom had come, but late, and the scars of slavery would linger long after. The first Juneteenth celebrations began in 1860, organized by the newly freed black communities in Texas. These gatherings included prayer meetings, music, shared meals, and the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation. The early celebrations were deeply spiritual and reflective, but also hopeful. People dressed in their best clothes, many for the first time not hand-me-downs, and celebrated their identity, their families, and their God. Over time, Juneteenth became a sacred tradition. It was not just about emancipation, it was about preserving history and passing down strength. Formerly enslaved people and their descendants held on to this day as a way to remember what was endured and to protect what was won. For decades, Juneteenth was celebrated primarily in Texas and southern black communities. But during the Great Migration, when millions of African Americans moved north and west in search of jobs and safety, they carried the tradition with them. Cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, and Detroit saw the rise of new Juneteenth traditions, each adapted to their local communities but rooted in shared memory. Despite its cultural importance, Juneteenth remained unofficial in most states for years. It wasn't until 1980 that Texas declared it a state holiday, the first in the nation to do so. Still, for many Americans, Juneteenth remained little known, overshadowed by July 4th, which for many black Americans had never truly symbolized freedom. Everything changed after the murder of George Floyd in 2020, when America was forced into a reckoning with systemic racism. Across the country, Juneteenth celebrations grew larger, louder, and more diverse. People of all backgrounds came together to ask difficult questions and to honor untold histories. In June 2021, President Joe Biden signed Juneteenth National Independence Day into law as a federal holiday. With this act, the U.S. government officially acknowledged that the end of slavery is a national milestone, one worthy of remembrance by all Americans. But federal recognition wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of a broader conversation about race, justice, and truth in American society. In 2025, Juneteenth is a national day of celebration and education. Across the country, cities large and small are holding parades, concerts, art exhibitions, and public lectures. Schools and libraries are organizing readings of African American literature. Churches are hosting freedom-themed worship services. Social justice organizations are using the day to highlight issues like mass incarceration, educational inequality, and voter suppression. Here are just a few examples of Juneteenth 2025 events. Galveston, Texas, the birthplace of Juneteenth, is holding reenactments, a freedom march, and a week-long celebration of African American culture. Washington, D.C. is hosting a national Juneteenth Freedom Festival with performances, youth programs, and a reflection wall for victims of racial violence. Online platforms are offering virtual seminars on Black history, activism, and civil rights law. Importantly, corporations and schools are not just giving employees a day off. They're beginning to support programs that explore the historical and social contexts behind the holiday. Juneteenth is not just about looking back, it is about looking forward. While the day celebrates the end of slavery, it also invites reflection on the freedom still denied to many through economic, social, and political systems. Issues like mass incarceration, health disparities, police violence, and educational inequality all trace back to the legacy of slavery and systemic racism. Juneteenth reminds us that freedom is not just a moment, it's a movement. The holiday also challenges mainstream narratives of American independence. For many African Americans, July 4th did not mean freedom in 1776. Juneteenth offers a more inclusive version of freedom, one rooted in justice and resilience. Juneteenth is now part of a global movement for racial justice. It resonates with people across the world who are fighting oppression, colonial legacies, and racism. From the UK to South Africa to Brazil, Juneteenth has inspired events that link historical struggles with contemporary justice movements. In 2025, international human rights organizations have recognized Juneteenth as a case study in the long-term impact of slavery and the importance of historical truth-telling in reconciliation processes. Juneteenth 2025 is not a relic. It is a living celebration. It honors the past, confronts the present, and dares to shape a better future. In remembering June 19, 1865, we acknowledge not only what was lost and what was won, but what still remains to be done. Freedom is not just the absence of chains, it is the presence of dignity, opportunity, and truth. On this day, we recommit to that vision. We sing, we march, we teach, we remember. Juneteenth is America's second Independence Day, and in many ways, it may be our first honest one. Thank you so much for watching the video.